Um, I think that leads right into the next part that I would like to talk about the growth of the sport. And I think that in it sounds like Europe, for the most part, is doing it right, where they have a booming kids, teens, and like young adult like development. I would love to find out exactly how you guys are able to do that. In America, it's more of like 20 somethings, late 20 somethings to 30 somethings that find sumo from other combat sports that end up saying, I want to try something different. And that's kind of what our demographic is, even on like Kellyanne Ball, who's a multiple time world medalist. She's 31 now. She started sumo in her mid 20s. And it's, I feel like out outside of like two areas, it's only me and Tennessee that really focus in on teens and kids. Um, just would love to hear like what you guys are doing. And Australia, I'm not sure what youth you guys have. I think you have. I think I saw one giant kid, but I am a little ignorant in there.
Washes his hands in sand, claps, present that he has no weapons. That is it. Then he stands up.
Yeah, I mean it's a tricky one because we don't have the development for our national team yet for say as many of the juniors as we want. We That's one area on our agenda right now is juniors and more women because yeah we are lacking on the Oceania side in those areas. We do bring forward quite a few men competitors, but yeah over here that's an area where we really need to focus a bit more on that because traditionally finding those members in the females and juniors is tricky. We do have that reputation for just bigger sized athletes that hurt each other. So parents, you need to really have the conversations with the parents. I've had a lot of parents say, "Well, my child's going to get hurt," and I just you know, can have to reassure them that actually it's one of the safest full contact sports around. Like you will get injuries in any contact sport, but they're going to be minor. And also at the speed of which the average full contact goes for in an actual 100% match situation, you really are talking about a couple of seconds, or maybe 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and then you're one from standing level down to the ground. That's it. So I think that, and a lot of the time there's padding. So I think as far as safety goes, that's just one thing you have to educate people. And then you have to educate these other athletes that are, like I get most people who are afraid. They do MMA and boxing, but they're afraid to do some sumo because they don't want to get taken down to the ground and get hurt. Because that is something that most people aren't really aware how to fall, and it's intimidating a sport that the person is trying to make you fall. So I think that's it. Like that's where it comes down to, like capturing what children are already naturally doing. They're throwing each other around in the playground, throwing each other to the ground, having fun. But when you structure it and you add rules and you add sportsmanship and you add challenge in, seeing how far each different player in your environment can go, that's the excitement of what sumo really is. It's like the ultimate king of the ring. So that we haven't quite captured yet. People's imagination on how far the sport can grow. Yeah, but that's just opportunity. Yeah.
Well, the this is one of those things about Europe is it's many different countries and everything works slightly differently in every country. To basically, as the two main approaches, and it's a bit of an east and west division, but not entirely, because like some countries they have a lot of funding from their national governments for everything that's a championship and nothing else. So they have like sort of a pool of just general fighting sport athletes, where the government goes like, okay, we have spots for the world championships. You five get everything covered. You're great at fighting people. Go. Here's 5 weeks of training, and then we're off. We're not. That's not our system. But I'm just going to put it out there that some countries have that sort of approach. But then again, you don't see them at any other tournament again because that's not where the money is for them. Speaking from the approach that we have, we in specifically in Western Europe, but also in countries like Poland, for instance, and also I can see in Ukraine as well, to turn up to many different tournaments. Is where you have the growth of the sport as a as an actual sport, and typically that is sumo attached on either attached onto the wrestling federation or the judo federation, or in close cooperation with them. And that is the typical way to recruit athletes at in their teen years, is to pitch to these federations that you cooperate with that, look, they compete in wrestling, say 20 weekends a year, maybe compete in sumo 5 or 6, and then some of them they find, say, wrestling or judo or their other sport like a bit challenging. Like they're doing all right, but they can't really, they don't really medal at like the big competitions. And or maybe they find sumo a bit more approachable, because you can always, like if you're decent enough, you can win against anyone. You just trick them once. Um, and that's the selling point essentially. To I work a lot on recruitment. On like I sell to teens and young adults who are good at their sport, but they're not gonna go to Olympics. And again, like that's, and then they have the immediate short circuit in the sense of like, well, then I'm going to quit everything forever. I try to pitch them like, you don't have to. Like, there's so many fun experiences you can have with this. Come have fun with us. Like we can, for over the next 20 years, you can have an amazing career. But we're not based on that same trajectory of get up or out, as they would say in like the management consultant industry, which is what a lot of sports have turned into, sadly. So we try to capture all those people who are get the out essentially of the up or out. We capture them and like, you are still a great athlete, and we can turn you into, you can have an amazing career over the next 20 years. That's our pitch essentially. Are also like our pitch to our cooperating federations. I mean, we're part of the wrestling federation, but again, like it's as a separate sport from from the Olympic styles. And we also have a strong cooperation with the Judo Federation and growing cooperation with the Rugby Federation here nationally. And my pitch to these other federations is that, look, we're not looking to steal your athletes, mate. Like, they can be rugby players 355 days of the year, and then be sumo wrestlers 10 days of the year. That's perfect. I'd love to see that. Same with judo as well. Like, look, if you're a good judo athlete and you want to turn up for a nationals, for the sumo nationals with like minimal training, and you do all right, yeah, and you make your bones like good enough to be on our Euro Cup team or our European Championship team, yeah, go back, train judo, do whatever you like, and come back for our training camp right before the championship, and then we do a couple of sessions, and you're in, on your own merits. Sumo wrestler 10 days out the year, and that's completely fine. And if they then, down the road figure out that, yeah, maybe I want to do some more, that's cool. So that's our model. But I know that other European countries have more targeted youth programs, more youth training. There's definitely something to be said for that. But if you point to, say, Hungary, for instance, they have sumo and wrestling clubs going just side by side. It's the same athletes. They train sumo on Wednesday. They train wrestling on Thursday. They compete in both, and they just select like from weekend to weekend what they feel like doing. Women's lightweight world champion. Sorry, Joel.
I was just saying, Azerbaijan team now, they've the judo, the wrestling, the sumo, they all train in the same facility now. So yeah, it's all done in the same. But yeah, go on. Sorry, Stephen.
Oh yeah. Now the example I was going to pull out was the women's lightweight world champion from 2023, Eniko Elekes from Hungary. She's uh, she's one of the absolute best freestyle wrestlers in the world. Like she regularly wins the world and European championships in under 20, now under 23. She was like 19 when she won the world championships in sumo, and she just essentially like switched right into like the Hungarian sumo national team, does a couple of tournaments for them, go back to the wrestling team, depending on where she is in the just in the calendar in the calendar year. And that's the mentality they have. Same as Joel mentioned with Azerbaijan, they have everything with wrestling, sumo, and judo all bound together. Smart way to go about it. But if you're building your sumo community from the ground up, as you would like say in, I mean, like say from what I gathered in the United States or in Australia, attaching yourself to these other more on a club level, like your local sumo club attaches itself to a local wrestling team or a local judo club or a local, or for Joel's sake, a local like not professional but like uh, local rugby club, as this is like a fun event, fun type of training and sporting event you guys can do next to your sport. And then they do it for a while, they think it's fun, and you're like, hey, come along to a tournament, you know. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, currently
That's
I'm
my two
working
cents.
now with a couple football clubs and just going through that as a collaboration process in their off season. Just maybe I'm working with some of the coaches now to help their players, but also in a sense so that they have as a fun uh, community recruitment drive on the side of their sport, which helps sumo as a whole. And it gets them to know more about our nationals, about our world championships, and about opportunities that they wouldn't otherwise. Yeah. That's a big one I'm working on this year.
I find that interesting. I more or less have that approach. So for work, I run a jujitsu gym, and we have basically a warehouse where I also teach sumo. And last year was the first year that we had a full team of teens, and they were all my kids, right? I ran nationals. My particular club ran nationals. I made sure, and I fought for a kids division. That was the first thing to happen during the day, which I don't understand why it was a big fight, but it was a fight that I was willing to have. But we started with the kids and then went to the teens. We were able to develop a full uh, club with kids and teens, which is pretty magical. And then nationals for us is it's on the 29th, and I again have teens flying out to Austin, Texas. So from California to Austin, Texas, and it's we have teens in every division is my club, which is that same kind of thing. It's they kind of just bump into it because I'll have sumo on one of our mats, and then on the other mat they'll be doing jujitsu, maybe nogi jujitsu, submission wrestling, maybe judo, and then they'll just come over and be like, "Oh, I want to try that." Right? And I think that there's something to that. There's something to that. If you have the space available to have something happening at the same time as another athletic adventure, I think that bleed over can happen. So I really do enjoy that. And
So
and
at our nationals, we were able to incorporate more of a teams event, which some different state clubs were able to put together a team, and then there was a New Zealand division. So maybe when you have those different states to work with, you can add that also that multi-level contest at a state level in your country, because then all of a sudden, the state team wants to be the best team. Like they
mm,
almost like it's a good chance for them. Because, I mean, even for me personally, speaking from experience, the World Championship team event it's massive. It's one of the the best divisions in my opinion.